What's up, everybody? We are back for episode number 2 of the Just an Insight podcast. Thanks, everyone who listened to the first episode and for the kind words that we received in feedback. Seemed like everyone enjoyed the little chat that I had with Svalbard, which is great news for me because first time doing this, getting a thumbs up, always good. For those who are unaware, my name is Tim Birkbeck. I am a writer. I am a lover of films, music and wrestling. But most importantly, I am your body and vehicle through this podcast. Since episode 1, I've been up to a few things. Went and saw La La Land in the cinema the other day, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not quite sure if it was good enough to be up for all these awards that it's tipped to win, but there you go, each to their own. You can read my review of La La Land over at the Just an Insight website, which is justaninsight.wordpress.com. Also, I recently watched and caught up with the most recent Progress Wrestling chapter 42, which was their first show in Birmingham. My personal highlight of the show was seeing Jack Sexsmith superkick Sebastian in Ugg slippers, which was pretty cool. That show also had an added significance for myself because it gave me the chance to interview Rockstar Spud of TNA fame for the Steel Chair magazine, which you can read over on their website, which is vulturehound.co.uk. It was great talking to Spud because even though he kind of plays a comedy character on TNA, which most people will know him for, he kind of blazed the trail for a lot of the UK guys and is still really humble about what he does and how he got into the business. And any situation that he's put into, he always gives 110%, and that always comes across in his character. Anyway, on to today's episode 2. I managed to sit down with vocalist and guitarist of the Saddest Landscape, Andy Maddox, while they were out in mainland Europe with Svalbard. It was really awesome seeing those guys because they've been a band for 15 years, and every single night, every single city that we were in, went on stage and just absolutely killed it. It was incredible. Got to know them quite well over the 9 days that we were away, and they were really kind enough to let me join them on stage for the end of one of my favourite songs, which is Eternity is Lost on the Dying, for a couple of the shows, which was really cool. One thing that I learned about Andy, which I got to know, as I said, got to know him throughout the 9 days, as he's a huge collector of vinyl, and literally every single city that we went into, he was scoping out record stores that he could find and see if he could pick up a few bargains. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode. The sound was a little bit echoey because the only place we could find to record was outside the toilet in the venue in Antwerp, so maybe a bit of an echo, so apologies if the sound isn't the greatest. I will see you on the other side and enjoy the episode. Cheers, guys! Right, so currently sat in the venue in Antwerp with Andy from the Saddest Landscape. Been on tour for the last 8 days, is it 8? 9?
9?
9, yeah.
Yeah.
All across mainland Europe. So from your point of view, how's the tour been so far?
Tour's been great so far. Every night, fair amount of kids come out, been very energetic and receptive, and, it kind of made us feel at home, like all the way on the other side of the world. So I don't think we could really ask for much, beyond that. We're very thankful that this is the experience we had and we continue to have after, 15 years or whatever. So it's good.
Has there been any particular shows that stood out to you?
All of them in their own way. We kind of talk about this after each show, but I remember the Warsaw show in Poland being a definite high point. It's just freezing and blue down there. I think they said it was like -20 or something, and to show up and they just have a packed room, just very energetic and just giving it their all, and singing along every word, grabbing me to the point that I was crowd surfing, which I don't always do. And just being very receptive and open and just letting everything go for that hour that we played and just being part of this whole experience. That really stood out. Italy was kind of wild. We got a little unhinged for a bit, and which is good. I'm trying to remember. It's kind of when you're in tour, a lot of the days just kind of blur together.
Yeah, of course.
So it's hard to kind of figure it out from there. Prague was really, really fun. There were some really, really cool, nice people there that just, it's good to kind of talk to after and kind of hear about their scene, their area, what they're into, and, so it's good.
And obviously, from being with you guys for the whole time, obviously, after every show, you kind of say, like, if you want to come up and speak to us, then feel free. And from speaking to you, like, a lot of like the kids at shows have been sort of receptive, and they've told you their stories as to why they're so passionate about your music. So has it been kind of interesting, obviously being kind of so far away from home, that your music has touched kids in Europe and they've had different sort of takes on your music?
Yeah, I mean, that always is, but I think the core principle of that is that, like the feelings or the subject matters that like I write lyrics about or sing about, it's not anything unique to me. It's universal. Like, love, regret, hope, like sadness, happiness, like it's things that people all over the world feel, so they can, and I think that's part of what appeals to it. It's just like, kids tell me like about their lives and what they're going through, and then they can just somehow connect to this and not feel alone anymore, and that's just really important. And so, and yeah, I encourage it because it's, I don't want to be necessarily one of those bands that spends half our set talking in between songs.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like, it is important to me, like what these are about, and like, we connect with people and let them understand that, we're people just like them, and it's not just a band and an audience. Like it's something larger. We're all together as part of this, and I want to remain accessible and have that connection and let people, know that I appreciate it, and that, and a lot of people come to me with like kind of sadder tales. I want them to know like things can get better, and like there are people that understand, and even though you feel completely alone, you're not.
Yeah.
So.
And basically, the website that I do this for is called Just an Insight. So the kind of tag that I'm kind of looking to do is get an insight into how the band started. So if you can give us sort of like a brief history of how the Saddest Landscape kind of came about in the first place.
Sure. We started 15 years ago, which seems like a very long time ago. It was originally myself and our other guitarist, who's a guy named C, and him and I had the original idea for the band. And C went to school with Jeremiah, who was our original bassist, and Jeremiah knew Aaron, who's always been our drummer, still our drummer to this day. We kind of got together, and the idea was just kind of to write really kind of passionate, melodic, explosive songs. And I think I phrased at one point that the subject matter was like kind of taking pages of your diary and turning them into anthems, like that sort of approach to it. And so we just did that, and it started a little slowly at first, but we got once we got a few songs written, went and recorded the demo, which ultimately became the Cover Your Heart 7-inch, which is our first release. And then we started playing shows and just getting out there and kind of, when you're a newer band, you're not sure where you fit in, so you kind of just throw yourself into any situation you can and sort of find your audience that way. And there was a lot of doing that, and it was just, you're younger and hopeful, and you're just like, let's see what we can do, because this is important to me or important to us. And you think that like if you really believe in it, that hopefully that will carry over. People will gauge that sincerity and get something out of it. I think that's what happened to us, and that's why things like you're talking to me 15 years ago, somewhere at work.
And obviously you and Aaron are the two original members left off. So how did kind of bringing Andy too and Dan into the band kind of come about?
Well, through a long list of members. Because there was that initial lineup I spoke of, and Jeremiah left, and we got Hunter to play for him. Then Hunter left, and C had to go to do some things, or life just happens, I guess, and so, we didn't play for a little period, just, a year and a half or so, or maybe the timelines blur, but through that time, Aaron and I kept playing together. We were in a side band called Rough on Glass, that the two of us did, so we never stopped playing together. And then at some point we were just like realizing the interest of Saddest Landscape was substantial, and then we kind of got over oh well, we can't do it without the original lineup. We
Yeah.
can't do this, and then it was. So we got our friend Mike Safford to kind of. He initially came on board to play bass, and then we're a 3-piece, and then we realized like we're a band that just is better with 2 guitars.
Yeah.
And it like frees me up to do some things, and it just adds a whole other layer. So Mike switched over to guitar, and then we got another Mike to play bass. Then Mike guitar left, and then Eric came in and played guitar, and then Mike on bass left, and then Jeff came in and played bass briefly. Then Jeff left, and that's when we got Andy too.
Yeah.
So that was the introduction of, we refer to him as Beta.
Yeah.
There's 2, so he's Andy Beta, and he's been with us for quite a while, and he was just the perfect fit, and that's not a slight at any of the other bass players, but we knew he was the guy.
Yeah.
We played, and he's got the right attitude, the right presence. I mean, the dude looks like he was born to be on stage.
Yeah.
He's the guy, and it was great to have him. So then we did that for a bit, and then we had Ryan playing second guitar he was in that band My Fictions. Somewhere Jason was in there at some point. We had quite a bit of members, and then eventually we got Dan. Dan was originally just going to fill in and play for the Euro tour we did with Frameworks a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But we just got along, and he's just got a lot of good ideas, and he's able to do it, and so then we gradually started writing with him, and we did Darkness Forgives with him playing, and from that, this became the lineup. It's just, for the past few years, that's what it's been, and we're just stoked on it. I think the response is good. I think everybody's getting along.
Yeah.
Good time. So.
And I think we spoke on the second date or something about obviously you guys coming over to Europe to initially do this sort of 15 years, and you've said that you're potentially going elsewhere. But was there a particular reason why, you've come back to Europe, mainland Europe specifically, quite a lot? And I think I overheard you speaking to the guys from Dangers when we crossed paths with them, that you seem to get a really good reception in mainland Europe compared to maybe the UK or somewhere else. Was that part of the decision process of choosing here to come?
It was, but it was also, we had done the UK last time we were here, and we weren't able to do things like, go to Prague or go to Vienna or go to, so we wanted to kind of see someplace new and not have, anybody there that's going to feel slighted. And we can only do a tour that's so long. Usually 10 days to 2 weeks, at a time is about the length that, we can afford to be gone from home. So we unfortunately just can't do everything. So we kind of had to make a decision. And, UK, mainland Europe is always a safe bet for us. Every show seems to go off well. And the UK, it's we do well. Brighton's okay. It was okay. We didn't have the best turnout last time in Birmingham, and so it kind of just depends, But we have a good time each, but it's just if we want to kind of maximize the time we have to be selective about it. And then some of it just comes down to Avocado, who does our booking. They presented us this routing, and they're like, "We think this is going to work best. What do you think?" And we looked it over, we talked briefly, and we're like, "Sure, let's roll with it. Sounds good." And sure, every night we hear from kids who are calling, well, why can't you come here?
Of course.
And we just want to be you live an hour and a half away. We're coming from halfway around the world. You figure that last hour and a half out. We can't go everywhere. But it's cool.
And when you kind of first started the band, 15 years ago, did you ever envision the longevity that it's kind of had to the point you're now here 15 years later doing an anniversary tour?
Not really, but you never envision an end either. You just envision playing because it's important. I think part of what's kept us so long too is we don't do it full time. We're not a band that's on the road 8 months a year or something, because so we don't burn out as quick, and it's just we play when it's important, and we're getting something out of it. We're always writing. I'm always writing lyrics. Dan's always coming up with little riffs and guitar parts here and there. So it's it's good. I can't say in the meeting 15 years from now I'm gonna be sitting in Belgium and talking to this. It's never that planned. It's usually just one kind of goal at a time. It's like, what can we do next? Where can we go here?
Yeah.
And like that's just kind of how we approached it, and just in ways to like keep it exciting and interesting to us.
And obviously, seeing you guys eight days in a row, like one thing that always, and not seeing you previously as well, one thing that always stands out is like the energy levels and the passion that you guys have on stage, especially yourself, obviously, always kind of getting involved with crowds and things like that. Is that kind of something that just adrenaline hits you and you feel that needs to go, or do you feel when you hit on stage you need to perform to an audience?
I mean, you just kind of feel it. It's like, singing what these songs are about and knowing like all the backstories, like in my head, it's just like I have to, kind of perform it that way. And then there's a little bit too of like, just looking down and seeing the crowd sing along, doing that. It's like I just want to be part of that too and celebrate that. And I want to encourage people to do that as much as possible. Like, where else in life can you go that you can scream as loud as you can and like just do that like in a public place and be part of this, and just it's like I want to embrace that part of the culture. I want to knock down that barrier of band in a crowd. Like I want to get in there and I want people to just kind of forget everything else in life for that time, because that'll all still be there. It's like, you kind of need this, and if it's not from our band, it should be from another band, or if it's not a band, like be passionate about something, be passionate about anything. Like it doesn't have to be music. Like I think there's just this fundamental need to just kind of feel alive that way and get that out, because it's just, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
So I think that's more what it is. It's like, there's everything is situational at our shows. Like everyone is, I think, because we don't know what's going to happen, and it's just, we don't write set lists. We kind of just go with, all right, this is what we'll start with. We'll probably end with this one, and in the middle, like, let's just kind of see how it all plays out.
Well, let's kind of roll on. That's what I was going to ask. So obviously, within the sort of 15 years, you've kind of got quite a collection of songs, and obviously you've only got finite time to perform. So how? Because I've seen on stage some nights you turn to Aaron and be like, should we do this one? Yeah. Is it a case of like you have set songs that you know that you're going to play, and then some are kind of ad-libbed, or is it a discussion that goes on before you go on stage?
Yeah, I mean, there's a core group of songs that, I don't want to refer to as our hits, but it's like there's just a grouping of them that go over well, and we know like a lot of kids, those are their favorite Saddest Landscape songs. So it's like, we're gonna play those because, you don't want to bum people out. Like, no one likes going to see that band. It's their favorite band, and they like refuse to play, the songs, like the popular ones, because they're too cool for that. So fucking no, you should feel flattered that a crowd likes something you wrote, and it's like we want to embrace that. And so those are like kind of the standbys, and then like, we kind of fill the set around that, and it's usually before we go on a tour, we spend a bit practicing and getting like, a big grouping of songs that we kind of rotate through. But as I talked about earlier, we've had a number of lineup changes, so it's, like Dan and Andy that just don't know like a lot of those songs. And the reality is like, I don't remember all of them. Like, really ask yourself, like, could you remember lyrics to a song you wrote 12 years ago? Like word for word, get up on stage and do it.
And do you think that maybe as well, like, because of the time period gap, that maybe the song meanings have changed, so you don't necessarily want to go on to the older stuff, or is that not the case?
Some of the meanings, like, it's not that the initial intent's usually intact, but it's, I might not feel it as intensely as I did at the time, because it's, life happens and things, and like, move, but it's, the songs, even if it's slightly changed for me, they still have that immediate meaning to like kids coming to see it. So it kind of brings you back to that place, and like, you can respond accordingly. I don't know, and it's like some of the songs, it's like, it's sometimes hard to pick. I mean, we like before this tour, we publicly asked like, what do people want to hear? Like, we're willing to like learn old songs, like that's what they want, and like. There's a couple, like, we started doing, like, Temptations You and Stars in January and stuff this tour, and it's the first time, like, we've ever played those with Dan. Like, he learned them for this tour. Like, it's been years, because it's, we haven't really needed to, you know, because get excited for new records, and it's something that happens too over time that, you know, like, you know, it's the reality is we play in like, you know, some sort of like loud, like hardcore band or emo band or whatever. It's like there's a turnover in kids. Like not everybody stays listening to it for 15, 20 years. So it's like, you know, new kids come in as old people go out, and it's, you know, so there's like people who don't realize we've been a band for as long as we are. Like they started and we signed with Top Shelf, and they're like, After the Lights, great first record, and it's like, I'm glad that you love it, but there's a history there. And to them, it's like they only want to hear all the songs like after that.
Yeah, of course.
So we don't know, like maybe the older songs aren't going to go over as well. I mean, thankfully they've gone over great this tour, but you know, we didn't know.
Yeah.
We kind of play them and feel them out, and then, you know, see what we can do.
And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is obviously kind of getting to know you in this past sort of week is obviously Nicholas from the Tidal Sleeps just walked in and interrupted.
Did they start sound checking? Did they start sound checking?
No. But obviously getting to know you is like your love for records, and kind of being a record collector myself, it's like the detail that you put into your own records, and something that you did for this tour was obviously the Euro box set.
Yeah.
So how did that kind of idea come about? Is that you wanted to do something a little bit different for this tour?
I mean, I've been wanting to do a box set for a bit, and it's an expensive endeavor, so it's like I had to kind of plan it out, and you know, it's just I always approach like our records or releases, or in general what we do, like what I like, you know, to see other bands do, or what I like in a release, and I love discography pressings and box sets, collecting like all this stuff like in one cohesive kind of packaging filled with a lot of history, and like, you know, so, and it got to the point that we had so much stuff that was like I wanted to kind of include as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's like I hate feeling like stuff's missing, so it's, you know, there's a lot in there, and it took Dan and I quite a bit to put together. It was just a lot of material to gather, a lot of masters to track down. We had to talk to a couple of the older labels and just be like, hey, we're doing this, you know, and then like there's just a lot of writing in the book too. So it was like, you know, a lot to kind of type up and edit and work out, but it was just, we felt 15 years was a good marker to do something like this, and you know, we were essentially in between records. Like Darkness has now been out for a year, and we, you know, are just now kind of starting writing the next one. So it was like a good time to like, hey, we can kind of put this out, and it won't kind of take away from anything else.
Yeah, of course.
And it, you know, and it just kind of, you know, was fun to kind of revisit some of that, and just kind of reassess and be like, oh, this is good. And then, you know, Dan brings up a lot that he likes hearing how, like, you know, whatever 2017 Saddest Landscape would play a song years ago, because it's just, you know, it's a different group of people. We're like, you know, I hope better musicians at this point, you know, just over time, and you know, so it's cool to kind of hear like things and like, you know, like different lead parts play differently or better. Like it's been fun.
And I've got to ask you about your personal collection, because I've heard different numbers rolling around.
Well, It's a lot. I stopped counting a few years ago, and when I broke like 10,000 records, like it's insane. But I love it. I mean, it's what I'm passionate about. Even right now, like in the back of my mind, I'm like, what stores can I walk to? And find, like, because it's without even like a list of mine. I just like the record shop. I just like the culture of it and the history and like, you know, seeing what's here. But yeah, I have a fair amount of records.
Have you got any particular favourites, or like aesthetics wise, or anything at all?
I don't know. That's such a question. I mean, there's so many that are really important to me that are like everything from like this is just really rare and cool to like this is really sentimental. To like this is just a good sounding record, or like, you know, so it's hard to answer.
No, I totally understand. Like my collection is probably minuscule in compared to yours. Like, I think I've just hit the 300 mark. So
yeah, give it time, we'll get there. I mean, Aaron was excited because he just filled his first like shelving unit. So and then he had to. Then he finally got around to, well, I'm gonna alphabetize them now. And then he texted me like later in the day. He's like, that was hell. It's like, I can't imagine how your life is. It's like that's things like you think about, like, you know, when it's time to get like a new shelf or something, and you need to alphabetize something like in the middle. It's like it could be like an hour and a half process to file a record. Like, but it's fun. You know, it's great. It's a good culture to be part of, I guess.
And obviously, you've already mentioned writing processes have already kind of started for the new album, and we've discussed earlier in the tour that you might do other like sort of anniversary shows elsewhere. So, are there any other sort of concrete plans at the moment, or is it just see how it goes?
Not really. Like I said, like we're kind of in the very beginning. So right, like Dan and I have been kind of bouncing ideas off each other, and you know, Andy too has been working on stuff. But you know, like we'll kind of probably start focusing on that a little more. We're doing some shows in the city of Caterpillar when we get back, and then after that, I don't really know. Like, I mean, you know, we've talked about like various things, but nothing that I feel confident enough to talk about. It's like if they don't happen, I don't want to post them out, or if like, you know, there's always like, when you get to a certain point as a band, there's always like sort of a procedure to announce.
Of course.
You know, well, we're going to announce on this day or do that, so it's, you know, I have to be mindful of it. But there's some stuff being planned.
Cool. And before we wrap everything up, is there anything you'd like to put out into the world yourself to say?
I don't think so.
No? Cool.
I think we're covering a lot of stuff. I guess just thank you for spending the time and talking to me, and you know, being interested in what we do.
Perfect. Brilliant. Cheers. Thank you very much, Andy.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
So there you have it, folks. Episode 2 done and dusted. It's great talking to Andy, and really thankful for him taking the time out to sit and chat with me. It's really interesting to actually hear how many lineups the guys in the Saddest Landscape have actually had, and gone through a number of changes throughout the 15 years they've been a band, and still going super strong. As Andy mentioned, the guys, as soon as they got back to the States, did a couple of shows with City of Caterpillar on their reunion, which was, from what I've seen on social media, it seemed to be really well received, which really made up for the guys because, yeah, they're just an awesome band. If you want to keep up to date with the Saddest Landscape on social media, you can find them on Facebook /The Saddest Landscape. On Twitter, it's @Saddest Landscape, but the first A of landscape is missing, so I'm sure you'll be able to find it anyway. And then on Instagram, it's if you search the Saddest Landscape, it will come up. In our next episode, I'm hoping to do a roundtable review of all the big weekends wrestling, which includes NXT TakeOver Sacramento and, of course, the January event, which is the Royal Rumble. Just trying to get a few people together to sort that out, so hopefully that will be coming to you soon. But I'd love to hear your guys' views on those events. So if you want to have your tweet read out or join in the discussion, find us at Twitter @just_an_insight. Use the hashtag JAIPod, and I can find your comments there. Or you can drop me an email at just_an_insight @hotmail.co.uk. The next interview that I'm hoping to do will be with Kent-based doom band Ohms, who are signed on Holy Roar Records. Currently, they're just sort of I believe the record is finished, but their new full length is going to be coming out sometime this year, and they're doing a little run of shows. So I'm hoping to catch them in Basingstoke, where I work. So, going to try and have a chat with them. And yeah, again, if you want to put any questions to Ohms, find us on Twitter or drop me an email, and I'll see if I can put it to the guys. So that pretty much wraps up episode 2 of the Just an Insight podcast. Thanks again for listening, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you soon.